Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. This is episode 20, and today I'm joined by junior on the women's lacrosse team, Hannah Smith. Today, Hannah and I talk about her recent successes in lacrosse, what it's like to be a student worker here at Marymount, and her passion for graphic design. With that, let's chat with Hannah. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. This is episode 20, and today I'm joined by junior on the women's lacrosse team, Hannah Smith. Hey, Hannah, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you, Ella?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today because while we realize the episode number isn't perfect, but I feel like the timing to have you on the podcast is exciting because you just had a pretty big week last week. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. So before we talk about how awesome of a player you are, let's talk about how you got into lacrosse. What started it all for you?
So I used to play like a handful of sports, growing up. Like everyone plays like different, like they play basketball or soccer. I swam for a little bit actually.
Really?
But I just really wasn't very good at any of them, more of a one-trick pony. My mom played lacrosse as a kid, so I got into like a rec league, and then my rec league like transferred into club lacrosse, and then just kind of blossomed from there.
And so you are the goalie here at Marymount. How did you get a goalie position? Kind of what?
Well, so originally I was a defender, and then, of course, I don't like running. No goalie does, but
I don't either, so I don't blame you.
I actually broke my wrist right as rec started, and my club team just wasn't very kind and didn't want to reimburse that, so doing goalie was, like, the only thing that I could, like, kind of still practice without, like, doing anything, so I would stand behind the other goalie, and I would, like, mimic, like, the shots. And then I just kind of stuck with it because I wasn't a big runner, and I was kind of good at it. And
so we're going to dive into kind of some big things that happened to you. So you recently, just last week?
The week before, yeah.
Week before, got your 200th save. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. So as a goalie, you're standing, in your goal. There's a lot of things coming at you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
How are you, you're able to respond to that really quickly? Is that just something that you learned at a young age, or is it with time it's just gotten better?
It definitely has gotten better as I've gone, but it just kind of always was there. Quick reflexes. I just get very zen, and then I just see the ball.
You're zen in the goal.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Even with lacrosse balls flying at you, you're
yeah.
I'm at peace.
I just kind of target the ball. I just look for the yellow ball and hope for the best.
So in a situation where things aren't going your way, how are you staying, put together?
So that's actually been a really big thing for me. Freshman year, I didn't really play a lot. I played maybe 6 games, and then last year suddenly I'm the starter, and I'm oh wow, this is intense. But our GA actually she's always it's so black and white. You're either gonna stop it or you're not. And so just keeping that in my mindset, just restarting after every goal, oh, they just scored, whatever, that's a black. Here I go again. I just got to save the next one.
Right. And so adding on another thing that you've accomplished, you were last week the Atlantic East Defensive Player of the Week. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
What does an honor like that do for you? Kind of early on, okay, not early on, more mid-season for you guys.
Yeah.
Is it helpful, or is it just yes, thank you, and you kind of move on?
A little bit of both. It just kind of brings me to the point where wow, I'm not the worst. I'm doing something right, and it just kind of pushes me to get it again. I just want to work harder to be it again, essentially. Last season I got it twice, and so now I just want to get it again.
Right. And so an honor like that, so how do you let it not get to your head?
Yeah, so last year when I got it the first time, I actually had a really bad game the game after. I could not buy a save, and so this year I just really tried to think about it in the way that wow, this is cool, I just got to keep it up, I can't disappoint people, essentially, which might sound crazy, but
I feel in that sense it's almost eyes are on you.
Yeah.
So other teams are looking at you, they're okay, this is who it was, now we have to keep our eye on her. It's similar like that for swimming too.
Yeah.
When I see who gets swimmer of the week, I'm okay, I'm watching that athlete.
Yeah.
And I think that's a universal thing. So for a regular practice, for you as a goalie, kind of how does your practice run?
So
you're obviously doing some things a little different than everybody else.
Well, it's changed a lot every year because last year I had another goalie and then this year I'm the only one. So I've changed it a little bit. Normally I would like start with the warm up, but I've kind of just erased it completely from my schedule, which is kind of crazy to say, but so I just practice a lot of like stick skills, and then whenever I need a break I'll step out, but I try not to. It's just normally when I get pelted pretty hard, I just got to step out for a minute, but I just try and have fun. And yeah.
What's your favorite thing to do in practice?
Oh, that's a really hard question.
Or maybe like favorite skill that you can like work on.
I love playing 1v1s with people.
Really?
Like when, not me, like they're like the 1v1 with the defender and attacker, and then I'm there. It just feels like I know what to focus on, and like there's not a million things, and so I can just zone in.
And so with, so me being an outsider here from the lacrosse team, a lot of the reason that I know about these accomplishments that you're achieving and your team is achieving is because of the Instagram page, the Women's Lax Instagram page. And you are one of the masterminds behind all of that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel your posts, your graphics are a lot different than the other teams, and you make them. And I think that's really fun. So let's talk a little bit about, because you're a graphic design person. Is that your major?
Yeah, that's my major.
So kind of that's, how you got in this position, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it started at the end of last year. I was just making graphics to like try and like my own personal projects just to get experience and work on stuff. And my roommate, actually, Abby, at the end of last season in our like class meetings was like, hey, CK, like you should look at this, because she knew I wasn't going to. And so then CK and Becca, our GA, were like, wow, this is like really cool. And so then at the beginning of this year, we started talking about things, and just kind of happened from there.
And we were talking about before, like you're making posts about yourself, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. You said it's not weird, but I would be like...
It's like a little awkward. I'll see like a picture of myself and I'm like, wow, that's a crazy picture. But I don't know.
And so with graphic design, like what's one of your favorite, parts about it?
I like being able to like, I have a minor in marketing and communications, so I really like being able to make things and make sure like people are feeling a certain way about it, like the story behind it, like if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
so kind of like the reaction of other people from what you're making.
Like what they think about it from there. Like it's just not like a poster you walk by. It's like something you want to interact with.
What has been one of the like most standout graphics pieces that you've made in your opinion? I
think that the graphic that had the most traction was Riley Love's 200th point. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people interacted with that because it's like a huge milestone, like saves or whatever. Like I might get like yesterday I had 16 saves. Like it's just coming, but like 200 points is kind of crazy. So
yeah, that is wild. And so going back to you as a goalie here, you have a game coming up in a couple of... Are you home on Saturday?
No, we're away, but...
Sorry, Saturday's being a big day for Marymount Athletics. I can't even keep up. But how are you getting ready for a game day? Kind of like what's your game day routine?
So I try and watch film about 2 days before so I can go into my next practice, like thinking about how I'm going to like do basically, like what to expect, because every team's different. And so then during practice on Friday, I'll try and like really zone in on like the key things I need to work on. Like clears have been a huge thing for me this year, and like really targeting that. And then retaining possession is something I've also struggled with, and if CK is watching this, she'd know. So just try and focus on things I need to focus on, and then kind of like not trying to make a huge deal out of it. I've realized like when I make a huge deal out of things, it just like adds more pressure to me. So I'm like, okay, it's another game. Like I know what I'm doing. So
right. And so you...
For those not aware, CK is...
Oh, my coach, Coach Kate. Sorry.
And so with Tommy hopping in, that was perfect timing for my next kind of talking point. You, alongside me and a couple other people, are a student worker of two lovely bosses, Tommy Bennett and Jacob Brown. Kind of talk about your role as a student worker, because it's a little bit different than mine.
Yeah, so I'm just like your average student worker.
You're not average. There's no average.
Yeah, I started last year just like ball rolling, doing the normal stuff, working my way up, and then this year I started taking I was the libero tracker for volleyball, and I think I really solidified my position there. And then for basketball, I was the game clock, and I really enjoyed that because it's like a different feeling than like being in the stands versus like being right there, and it's like it's really fun.
Right.
And so I don't know, I love the people I work with. I love watching sports. So
yeah. So what has been one of your favorite memories within student work, like being a student worker?
I think honestly just like watching my friends play their sports.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends that play volleyball, like Joe, or like, and even working the swim meets. Like I think I worked 2 this year maybe. And
well, God bless you, because they're hot in there.
Yeah, it's very hot.
It's hot in there. Sorry.
It's always a struggle. I don't know if I should wear shorts or pants.
You're never going to make the right decision.
No, never. But it's also very stressful. I remember last year when I did it, a girl tripped over my wire, like with the clicker. That was
my bad.
Yeah, it was not good, but
hey, it happens to the best of us. As a swimmer, she should have been paying attention.
Yeah, she really should have.
It's on us, because we appreciate you guys coming out there.
She wasn't a Marymount swimmer, so it doesn't matter.
If it was a Marymount swimmer, it wouldn't have even happened.
Yeah, true.
I can guarantee you on that. So as we trail off here, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of like the Marymount experience that you've had, because you talk a little bit about not playing much your freshman year and then now coming in as a key player. Kind of like, what has the past 3 years been? The last 3 years here been like for you?
I think like if I just had to pick one word, is fun. Like things are definitely hard at times. I mean,
right.
Any student athlete knows that. Like there's going to be days you don't want to do anything, but I think just like finding the right people. Like my class specifically is very close, and like our team in general, the team chemistry is like just there. And so I think being able to really connect with those people makes the whole experience, for me at least.
What is the one thing you think up to this point that 30 years down the road you're going to remember about Marymount?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I think probably like one thing that I've never forgotten was our swim practice freshman year. We had one, and I could remember the entire thing, like, or probably just like the people in general.
Yeah.
But if we're talking memories, that's it.
Swim practice, what did that all entail? I gotta ask.
It was terrible. I wear glasses, obviously, and I was a freshman, and I didn't bring goggles, and so I'm in like the slow lane with Riley Love, and so she's a 5th year, and then Kendall Diamond graduated last year, and they are not very good swimmers. And so we're just like in the drown lane essentially, because I couldn't see. Like it was bad.
Yeah. No, well, if it makes you, the thought of me standing in front of a goal is actually probably my worst nightmare, if I'm going to be honest. So you being in the drown lane kind of makes me laugh, because I'm like, we're kind of feeling like similar emotions here. I think that's funny. Well, Hannah, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I loved getting to talk to you and hear a little bit more about the women's lacrosse program, and to hear more about you and kind of your experience at Marymount. Like, I think that's really important for people to hear about, because obviously we see stats, we see posts on Instagram, we see numbers, but there's a person beyond that. And I think that's kind of cool. And also knowing a little bit behind the masterminds of the Marymount women's lacrosse Instagram.
Well, thank you for having me here today. I've loved talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.